To begin with, let me firstly introduce myself. This is Dr. Jason Ho from the Center for Innovative Service Learning. Some of you have already known me, but I actually see quite a number of new, not faces, new names here, which is good, which also explains the topic of today's seminar, namely things you know and don't know about service learning, a two-part workshop. Two quick remarks about this particular topic. We would like both new service learning teachers, those who are interested, and also returning teachers to attend this particular workshop/seminar. That's why we would like to name this seminar in this particular way. So even if you were our fans or supporters before, there will be things that you actually don't know about service learning that you are going to take away today. And of course, for those new ones, welcome very much. All right, and you will be getting actually a lot about service learning from this workshop, which of course explains the second part of the title, a two-part workshop. Owing to the very fact that we have got quite a lot to tell you guys, so we are going to separate the workshop into two parts, and this is kind of like our rundown for today. Roughly for the first part, of course, especially for the newbies, we will be basically introduce some very fundamental knowledge and basics of service learning. And also we would like to credit our teachers and also our students. So we will also be showcasing some of the service learning deliverables of the past academic year, which will also give you a sense of what students have been doing in service learning. And last but not least, in the first part, there will be this very important section on evaluation and rubrics to give you a sense that service learning is this very important component and element in the formal curriculum. And that's why we pay a lot of attention to evaluation and rubrics. After that, we'll have a short break. And when we come back, we will talk about this very important process of applying our service learning mini grant, which my colleague will tell you more. Also, different initiatives that we are going to have in terms of virtual online service learning and also overseas service learning, something that we would really like to further develop. And last but not least, definitely something new, the mapping of SDGs. To not only service learning courses, but actually to all different courses at HKBU, which we'll talk more about that later on. Now, but first thing first, we would like to welcome you not only from me, myself, but actually all my colleagues from CISL are here today. I don't need you guys to say hi by voicing out, but just say hi by waving your hand. So these are my lovely colleagues. Among them is, of course, our director, Dr. Lisa Lam. Maybe to begin with, may I invite Lisa to say a few words to all of you. Lisa, please.
Okay, thank you, Jason. And hi all, thank you for joining us. I'm very happy to see all the old friends and new friends here. I'd like to cover two developments of service learning in the bigger picture. So first of all, it is about the what we call UAA, the University Accountability Agreement. So I believe quite some of you should have heard about this. And this is, in case you haven't, this is the link. This is an agreement that the UGC-funded university would have this agreement with the UGC, and this is a triennium in the period of 3 years. The one that I showed you is the existing one that will expire by August, and there will be another new agreement starting from September 22nd. So for the new agreement, service learning will become one of the KPI for all 8 universities, the UGC-funded universities. So I'm very happy that you are interested in service learning out of your passion. And the bonus is that you are also helping HKBU to achieve this KPI. This KPI is important because UGC will look at the performance of all the universities, the rankers, and then this will form part of that decision about undergraduate quotas. So it is about resources and finance. So if you are if you plan to offer surface learning courses and projects, do remember to let your department know, because I believe probably your department may have a KPI on surface learning. So this is the first update. And thank you so much for helping us and helping the university to achieve this. The second one is about research. So I do know that many of you are all very busy. We are all very busy. You have to teach, you have to prepare courses, you have to do programs, you have to do research, and you have to do administration work, blah, 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 all these things. And so it is our intention that in the long run, we'll help colleagues integrate your research into surface learning. And surface learning, in terms of the courses or the projects that you'll be doing in the community, they will form part of the social impact of your research. So we believe that this is beneficial to all parties, that if you are interested in integrating your research into your course, say through the course to gather some data, community data, and then part of your research, the extreme research, for example, it can be realized in a real community situation. That would be a very, very good example to show the social impact of your surface learning course and your research. So do give some thoughts about this. And if you'd like to help, you'd like us to help, we're very, very happy to talk to you and see how we can develop all these. And we also help you do an evaluation of your surface learning project. We have pre and post survey, we have focus group projects. And so if you need, we can provide you with data for your research and for your, say, grant proposal. So that's what I want to cover. Two things, UAA, thank you for helping us with the university's KPI. It's not really our KPI, but the university's KPI. And then secondly, integration with your research. We hope you will get the most out of this surface learning initiative. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Back to you.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, now, so after Lisa's opening remark, there we go to start introducing maybe not only service learning, but the work of our center. For some of you might already know this, so bear with us. But for new colleagues joining us, actually our center was established almost 5 years ago. And it really aligns with a lot of the things that our university has been doing and aiming to do in the next 5 years, and actually in the next strategic plan. So as some of you know, in next year, 2023, there will be this UGC audit thing. So that's why I began by saying that for our service learning courses and programs, data collection is very, very important. We would like to use and also analyze our data. And also our university actually promises to provide at least one service learning / experiential learning opportunity to every willing student to participate by next year too. One more thing, if you know about our strategic priority, number 1, best student experience, it also mentions service, as I put down here, in terms of caring, creative, and also global. So we really hope to stimulate your interest in service learning and also in promoting, doing service, doing community work, and incorporating that into your formal curriculum. Now, maybe to begin with, kind of like some kind of layman perspectives of how people understand service learning. You know, these two words, namely service and learning, they are not like jargons or really complex words. So you tend to always see these kind of codes in a lot of citations, a lot of journals, essays, etc. Sometimes, for example, on your left, people may think that while doing service, learning about something is just a matter of feeling good, which very soon we will be explaining. That's not necessarily the case per se. On your right, for instance, some of the people might also think that, well, there's this sense of learning and also serving for a lifetime, things like this, as a kind of continual process. Again, in our introduction later, you will be able to tell that we do actually more than that, way more than that. Now, so after learning something about the so-called layman perspectives, to begin with, maybe to warm up ourselves a little bit, I promise not to call your name, all right? So feel free to type anything in the chat box. Now, for our so-called newbies, all right, our new colleagues who have not joined any service learning activities, courses, or programs before, my question would be, what strikes you when service learning comes into your mind? So any word, any phrase that you can think of when you come to think about service learning. As for quite a lot of our SL friends here, our colleagues who are already very experienced, can you tell us what's your biggest plus, or as I put down here, minus or both, when you did service learning before? Let me give you guys like maybe 1 to 2 minutes to type whatever you can think of for both our new colleagues joining SL and also our previous colleagues, please. All right, feel free to type anything. As I've promised, I won't be calling out names, so just feel free to type whatever you think service learning is related to you, matters to you. Wow, very good. I start to see some really keywords, really important phrases in service learning. First and foremost, community, definitely. Students do community work. They try to apply their academic knowledge to contribute to the community and very often society at large. Civil responsibility, definitely. One of actually the key things that we would like to achieve in students when they conduct service. Definitely, to connect theory with practice, this is actually one of the top essence, I would put it that way, about service learning. Design thinking, implementation in group projects with knowledge transfer, definitely. Nowadays we always talk about the transferability of knowledge, right? So you don't want to focus just on one single discipline, but you would like to see the relevance of how the kind of discipline knowledge is applicable to the world outside, so to speak. So very often when it comes to service learning, relevancy is another very important keyword. Right, how students would have a sense of how their knowledge is relevant to the real world. Okay, so from students gaining practical skills, definitely by engaging and learning about community issues, definitely. The kind of community engagement is really this key phrase when we do service learning. Actually, when we talk about rubrics, we will mention that point, all right? There's this one factor to so-called great students, right? In terms of how they are committed and also engaged with the society. Hands-on experience with students preparing to transit into the industry. Wow, this is very good too. About that particular transition. This is similar to what? Internship, right? I guess some of you might have that feeling immediately that you kind of like train students beforehand before they step into the society. Well, very soon when we introduce our work, we will be able to tell how we are slightly different from internship. And last but not least, from one of our dear friends, Archie, learning while making a difference. Wow, this is actually a citable citation, all right? Learning while making a difference, definitely. Wow, so thanks a lot, colleagues, all right? Obviously, you have already got a sense of what service learning roughly is from both our so-called newbies and also, of course, our very experienced colleagues. Now, so here is what usually we give a brief understanding and definition of service learning is to actually not only our colleagues, but also to students as well. Now, obviously, the term service learning consists of service and learning. All right, the service will be depending, of course, of the nature of your course, of your program, the things that you are going to design that will benefit the community. As for the learning part, will be how your students are going to use the kind of academic knowledge, content, theories, you name it, into the curriculum and also as a form of pedagogy. Now, you can tell maybe or you can't, all right? Actually, guess what? After 4 or 5 years, they are not only students, but teachers still missing this when they submit forms to us, when they submit their assignments, which is the hyphen in between. Now, we always make this joke saying that, wow, we are not like what? Grammar Nazi or emphasizing punctuation. It goes beyond actually a matter of grammar, language, and punctuation. Actually, the hyphen between service and learning indicates the kind of equal importance between service and learning. So we don't want students to simply go out to serve the community, forgetting, right, the learning part. We also don't want that they come back to tell us that they have learned a lot. They have furthered their learning in terms of theory, practice, without gaining the kind of service experience. So the hyphen in between service learning, right, is precisely very telling and suggestive because of this. So here comes kind of like an academic definition, if you wish, of service learning, which I'm very glad that a lot of our colleagues' response just now, all right, basically cover the whole thing, namely how SL integrates community service. A lot of you actually mentioned community with academic learning. And also how the kind of emphasis is really equal in terms of both service and learning. It engages students in different kind of activities that address different kind of needs, and also with structured reflection. All right, so this is one thing that very often a lot of people might miss out. They think that the academic content is important. They think that the service is important, but also reflection, namely how when students finish their service, after they have done a lot of admirable work, they have to go back to the classroom to do some sort of reflection, which could be in the form of a logbook, a presentation, designing a website, in whatever ways. And later on, when the examples come in, this will become crystal clear. Now, in the second half of today's workshop, when we introduce our mini grant, this will become, there will be more details to come. But basically at HKBU, as you might know, service learning is not a graduation requirement. So that's why workshops like this precisely would like to encourage different colleagues from different departments and faculties to develop their existing course, to revise their course syllabus a little bit, maybe marking scheme, etc. And then to insert service learning elements into their usual courses. It could also be, for instance, GE Level 3 capstone course, which a lot of you might be familiar with. But later on, when the mini grant part comes in, all right, you will know that so-called double funding is not allowed. So in other words, if your current GE Level 3 course is already with GEO, you cannot apply for our funding. All right, so just for your information. Now, this is more important. You might start thinking, okay, so what constitutes service learning course, so to speak? Now, on paper, we said a minimum of 10 hours of service. You might start to get worried a little bit, right? Wow, how can I expect my students to do 10 hours of service? Are they going to like clean the beaches for 10 hours? Well, that's not necessarily the case, because that 10 hours actually include both preparation and also the service part. And to tell the truth, as well as the reflection. So you can imagine students might need to do some preparation beforehand, maybe a project plan, some kind of short briefing from partners, etc. And of course, the service itself, and when they go back into the classroom to do the reflection, all of them together, a minimum of 10 hours, which I am happy to tell that all of our previous projects were able to fulfill these 10 hours. So of course, we'll be able to provide you or provide linkage with different community partners, again, depending on the nature of your project idea and also the nature of your course. I've already mentioned that pre-service training and briefing, usually the community partners would like to, if COVID allows, come to the campus, come to the classroom to actually tell students something about, for example, their organization, what their expectations are, etc., which in our experience are extremely important, all right, so as to actually manage the expectation of both sides. all right, as you can imagine. So I've already mentioned that student reflection. Now, this is important. For most of our courses, they last for only 1 semester. But then we have got more and more service learning courses that are quite ambitious, and we start to actually advise them that actually, if the whole curriculum allows, it can last for 2 semesters, all right? And of course, in terms of funding, you can apply for a little bit more, things like this, all right? So try not to be constrained by thinking that, wow, I have to complete the whole service within 1 semester, all right? That's not necessarily all the case. The last point here is actually very, very important, that the service can take place during or outside lecture hours. Just some kind of quick tips or pointers for you guys. We received feedback from instructors before saying that, wow, if the service takes place, say, during weekends, students might not be very happy. Not that they don't want to serve the community, but then sometimes they have part-time jobs and they feel like, well, they have to do extra work. So eventually, this is something that we suggest and advise teachers to do. For instance, if that particular weekend, they will have to go to, say, a community center, an elderly home, etc. Try to cancel, all right, either before or after that particular service, that particular lecture for 2 or 3 hours, all right? Kind of like to compensate that students have to go out to do that extra service. And since we give this advice to teachers, things work out really well. All right, but don't worry at this point, as you apply for our funding, we will give you more tips and advices. So I won't be detailing about this, but actually there are 4 types of different service or service learning, namely direct service, indirect service, research, and also advocacy. Actually, later on when the examples come in, all right, you will be able to tell almost like immediately which service belongs to which category. So at this point, you might be wondering and thinking, as Lisa mentioned at the very beginning, all right, that you are all very busy. So you can imagine applying a grant like this and doing something extra. There might be a lot of extra admin work, which is true, but that's why we are here. For just to give you one example, we have this thing called the lazy bag. Within that particular lazy bag, you have got basically everything that you need. A PowerPoint to introduce what service learning is, pre-post service questionnaires, etc. We basically update this lazy bag every semester, every academic year. All right, we collect opinions from students and also teachers, so as to give you the most updated information and also the most comprehensive information that you will need. One thing that we are very happy and actually very proud to provide you will be that each service learning course, and I'm saying each service learning course, is under the care of at least one of our colleagues. What we will be helping you guys in terms of will not only be logistics, admin support. You can imagine, for example, in terms of money claiming, reimbursement, there's a lot of work. But we will also provide you with connections, partnerships in terms of getting in touch with the community. Because very often we receive teachers' inquiries saying that, well, I have to, or I would like to develop a certain project in a certain area, but I have no connections at all. What can we do? Come to us. All right, and we will try to actually match you with certain community partners to further discuss potential projects. This is what we call internally a kind of match meeting, of course, between you and the community partners. And again, it's proven to be really effective and efficient. All right, so if you have any project ideas, just come to us. Like what I mentioned here, we provide consultation sessions. Ranging from the process of applying the mini grant to how to execute it, to debrief it, etc. And of course, thanks to COVID, we are also having very good plans in terms of advising you how to have backup and also contingency plans for your service. Now, this is the part that we would like to recognize students' works in the previous semester and also previous academic year, so to speak. Every year we produce a lot of newsletters and also our annual publication to actually document all the students' deliverables, courses that apply for our mini grant. This is very important for us because starting from a few years ago, actually, different units like CPRO, UAO, they always ask us for photos for reports, usually sometimes for the donors, but also for publicity. All right, so this really echoes to what Lisa has mentioned at the very beginning, that service learning is now really kind of like under the spotlight. So that's why we will be constantly reminding teachers that you have to take really nice photos for us. Actually, not for us, all right, but for basically the whole university in terms of documentation. The library's heritage now has a separate section solely for service learning to showcase our students' work. And also on our website, I won't be showing it, but you can take a look at our website. We have also got a section called Digital Archive that actually documents all students' work. So we always ask teachers or even to make use of our mini grant, for example, to hire a professional photographer, all right, to come up with not only group photos. Group photos are like everywhere, am I right? Whenever you have an activity, you have group photo. We would like to go beyond that. We would like to see, for example, our students interacting with, for example, in this case, the elderly, taking their advice, opinion on using mobile apps, etc. All right, so I have to give you the sense of a very warm, empathetic atmosphere that students are engaged in. So just as to give you more examples of so-called good photos, but as you can tell, they are quite old photos. All of them are without masks, all right? I'm not saying that recently we don't have good photos, all right? But then again, just to give you some really good ones, showing usually both our students, community partners, and also service users, all right? So this will be the case. Now, in the next section, this is what we are going to do. Because of COVID, usually during summer, we would like to have some kind of celebration events so as to thank and acknowledge both our course instructors who have been very hardworking and also our students and community partners, all right, by having some kind of match meeting, luncheon or dinner. But this summer, we cannot do it, all right? Just to give you some kind of expectation, we hope that when the new academic year begins, we'll be holding some kind of an exhibition in Triangle, our co-working space, some sort of like an exhibition, all right, to celebrate students' work. But we would also like to use today's section to actually introduce and highlight some of the works that our students and teachers have delivered in the past academic year. And we also think that by showing you some of these works, newbies, our new colleagues who would like to give service learning a try, can also have a sense of what service learning is by showing you some of these examples. So here we go. Chinese medicine. For this course, for instance, students actually, because of COVID, they cannot get in touch with a lot of patients in person. So they taught them some very basic skills in terms of all right, and traumatology. And then they make videos and send them to, for example, NGOs and different social enterprise. And the elderly actually came back to us saying that they are very effective because they really are able to gain some basic skills and techniques in terms of, for example, massaging your forehead or whatsoever. I'm no expert, all right, but then you can imagine, all right, so educational videos. Wow, this very eye-catching slide from one of our new service learning teachers, Emily from the Department of English. This course is very interesting. Students, again, thanks to COVID, could not visit. I'm sure not a lot of you know this place called Africa Center, Hong Kong. But this particular teacher works on African culture and literature, and again, resembles a little bit of what Lisa mentioned at the very beginning, actually massaging personal research interests and also service learning, and producing this very interesting course called the Art of Storytelling. Students actually translate their knowledge in African culture and literature, design posters in hope of promoting them to secondary school students. All right, so we are surprised, very surprised that art students in English will be able to actually create very eye-catching posters as such. Okay, this is from geography. This teacher, Professor Yang Chen, has a few groups of students who work on issues really very important issues in terms of COVID-19. One of them will be, for instance, the use of consumption vouchers. And students did a lot of desktop research on how to, for example, prevent or promote actually inclusion and diversity when they are talking about consumption vouchers and also ordering takeaways, etc. All right, so a very meaningful and timely project, all right, in terms of economic geography. Wow, this is, wow, we always say that this course is a lucky one, so to speak, because it makes this happen right before the outbreak of the fifth wave. A course from a German teacher from GIS, Catherine. So that research and that particular project is on German and also Jews in Hong Kong. All right. So as you can tell from the pictures, Jewish refugees in Hong Kong, an exhibition is held in Triangle. This is actually a point that I will mention towards the very end of our workshop today, that you are more than welcome once you are our friends, so to speak, all right, I mean our service learning mini grant friends, you can make full use of our co-working space Triangle to have lectures there, to have workshops, exhibition, etc. All right, and I think this course is a prime example as such. This is also a very interesting course. Dr. Chen Fong, who has unfortunately left HKBU already, has been collaborating with us for several times already, trying to promote, again, inclusion and diversity in terms of knowing more about, for example, racial minorities in Hong Kong, and by talking to racial ethnic minorities in Hong Kong. Students' outcomes in her course are very often extremely influential in terms of how they have made videos and how they will be distributed to different NGOs, all right? And again, in terms of educational purposes. This is another new course of ours. Yesterday was Father's Day, all right, and among a lot of students' work, I intentionally chose this. Students' work is to work on different themes in terms of taking photographs and transform very important issues in the form of a visual diary. All right, and they will be made into a book, a publication, and will be further disseminated. All right, so you can tell that for a lot of our courses, one of a very common deliverables will be making things like publications, booklets, etc. You will see more examples very soon. And you will be wondering, wow, you can imagine a lot of these publications need money for sure. And that's why our mini grant will be something very useful, all right, that we will talk about very soon. Okay, this course from Dr. Daniel Kwok from the Department of History is another very popular course of ours. Dr. Kwok works a lot on oral history, oral narratives. And this year, as you can tell from these beautiful pictures, has got a lot to do with the countryside. Students talk to different residents in different villages to learn more about their personal history, all right, and they will be turned into oral history, and these narratives will become something very important in terms of maintaining and conserving the heritage of Hong Kong. This comes another example of publication. This group of students actually interviewed fathers who are very sensitive subjects, so to speak, because they were prisoners before. So students make very good use of their techniques in interviewing and also writing, because this course is on professional communication. And the ultimate outcome is this particular booklet called I'm a good father, things like this, all right, trying to translate that into English. So just another example to show you that releasing publications is something very common, all right, in our service learning courses. Okay, so the Department of Communication, all right, is another big supporter, all right, of ours. So Kimi, one of them, has this course with us, all right, basically since the birth of CISL. Students usually organize events, plan different campaigns for different NGOs. For instance, this took place in the previous semester, semester one, when COVID wasn't that bad. all right, and actually learners with difficulties from this NGO called Nesbitt Center actually came to HKBU, came to Triangle, and also CWA to join events organized by students, and they had a wonderful time. This is one of the examples that teachers might not be necessarily working on direct or indirect service, but on research and advocacy. Dr. Kenneth Chan from GIS works as students to work on this very interesting subject matter called participatory budgeting. So students did desktop research and did a lot of promotion and also advocacy work in terms of investigating democracy, in terms of using money, spending the government's budget, all right, in different ways of designing beautiful PowerPoint, and they will be shared with different stakeholders. Another course from the Department of Communications as well. Women Learn is another huge supporter of ours. This semester, again, because of COVID, students could not get in touch with the service users directly, who are the young olds. Nowadays, a lot of NGOs, a lot of social enterprise actually work with the young olds. The elderly, which are not that old, so to speak, like 50, 55 years old. And students make use of their campaign planning skills and techniques to design different videos to them, like training them to play games, basic exercise, even teaching them to take photos and use Photoshop. And I heard from the teachers and students that the young olds are actually very happy about that. They did never know, all right, that photos can be photoshopped in such an extent, things like this. All right, so very meaningful project. We are reaching towards the end. Dr. Dae Wong from sociology, well, as you can see from these collage of photos, you will be able to tell. And then her students work with a number, actually 7, as far as I remember, 7 organizations to help them with different kind of promotion work, etc. And among them, again, the community partners spoke really highly of students' work. All right, so you can tell, all right, that when you try to think about doing service learning or incorporating service learning into your course, as we always argue, is a triple win situation. Students, you yourself as the teacher, all right, and of course, the community. This is from the Department of Social Work, Dr. Dwashanan, again, collaborating with us with students applying art therapy ideas and skill sets to come up with, wow, really mind-blowing art pieces. And they even had a very decent, very, very presentable exhibition somewhere outside HKBU. And again, for example, in terms of the rental fee, definitely supported by our mini grant. So the reason why I'm presenting you with different project ideas is that to actually start you thinking how you can make use of our grant to actually develop your project ideas. Okay, last but not least, I'll put these two together because these two are very interesting examples of ours from the Department of Translation from Dr. Janice Pan. Translation workshop and community interpreting are what we call sister courses. They make use of their students' very, very professional skills in translation and interpreting to provide translation and interpreting service to different organizations in Hong Kong. Most of them, of course, are NGOs, but for example, for community interpreting, they also provide interpreting service to a lot of our own activities, namely activities in Triangle, so as to definitely promote inclusion and diversity on campus. Okay, now, so much about the previous examples of service learning courses. We don't want to stop there. Now, what do I mean by that? Previously, some teachers and actually students might think that, wow, service learning, reaching out to the community, contributing to the society, so it's kind of like voluntary work. Well, yes and no. Yes, the yes part will be yes, you are doing that kind of voluntarily, but still, of course, it's academic courses, so it's credit bearing. But the no part will be, remember I kept emphasizing that you have to do reflections, right? So when you have reflections, it reflects a certain grade. So we have these pre-post service surveys and also focus groups to make sure that we are going to evaluate and measure students' improvement and changes before and after they have conducted the service. We use this particular measurement scale called SLOMS, Service Learning Outcomes Measurement Scale. Let me skip the background, but just to let you know that it's already validated. All right, so it's already being used in different universities in Hong Kong. Of course, if you're interested, we can give you the whole scale to take have a look. But then among them, we have actually choose 38 items out of 4 categories and come up with 7 domains. Now, just to very quickly take a look at them. Of course, I won't be explaining the numbers at all, but just to let you know the domains on your left, the SLOMS domains. So these are some of the areas that we are trying to measure and evaluate how students have been doing before and after their service activities. For example, knowledge application, as you can tell from the graphs here, they usually do really well because it's so much about what? Applying their discipline, academic knowledge to the real world. Students also come back with results saying that their team skills, their relation skills have also improved a lot, things like this. So you can tell, all right, that we have a very rigorous form of exercise to actually measure students' experience. So this will be the numbers part, but as I've mentioned earlier on, we also conduct focus groups. So we rely on both quantitative and also qualitative data to actually measure student improvement and how they have changed before and after their service. Now, on top of that, we have also got rubrics. Now, I'm not sure how, I know all of you are coming from different departments and faculties, and your department and faculty may have, excuse me, very specific policy on rubrics, right? As for our service learning component, we will be giving you a specific set of rubrics to actually assess that particular service learning component. And the rubrics are designed in such a way that it covers 4 of our silos, namely knowledge application, reflection, social awareness, and also generic competencies. Now, so this is our rubrics. Now, of course, I won't be reading out the whole thing. When you apply for our mini grant, and actually anytime, you can ask us and we can give you the rubrics to have a look to see what we expect students to achieve after taking a service learning course. Actually, we send out this rubrics to all university members in late 2021 as advised by our committee members. But in this particular workshop, because we would like to give you a further sense of how previous teachers actually use these rubrics, I'm going to provide you with 2 examples before we move to the next part. Now, as you can tell from the rubrics here, there are like 5 criteria, right? So some teachers might be choosing different criteria out of the 5. For example, for this course, this particular teacher has chosen, for example, the first criteria, empathy and caring for others. And her feedback would be how students are actually able to express their empathy and also care for the target group's feeling. As you can tell from the photo here, this is actually from that particular course in which students interview former prisoners who were fathers. So they are able to use this little emoji to cover their face when they did the presentations. All right, so the kind of empathy is definitely there. And other criteria that the instructor has chosen will be social awareness, because as I mentioned earlier on, the results, the findings, and also the writings of the students were gathered and published in the form of a book. So the teachers actually argued that the articles will be published, so the guidebook will be disseminated into the local service so as to help better contribute to the society, etc. All right, so you can tell again, all right, that this is one way of using the rubrics. Another example of using the rubrics will be like this. This is from the course on the Africa Center visit, where students design a poster. So this is what the teacher did. On top of providing a very detailed comments and suggestions on the poster, she would also make use of the rubrics by simply highlighting where the student has achieved. For example, for this particular group, for this particular poster, she thinks that in terms of knowledge application is outstanding. In terms of empathy and caring is also outstanding, etc. Okay, now, so I really hope that by showcasing these few examples of how our teachers have been using our rubrics to actually grade students' work, you will have a sense of how service learning, all right, as I have been emphasizing, really is a formal pedagogy, all right, that on one hand, we are trying to encourage you to try out, but on the other hand, we can't stretch enough that it really has to be evaluated very, very vigorously, all right, in terms of using our SLOMs, our focus groups, etc. Okay, so I know I have been flooding you with a lot of different examples, both on evaluation and also on our course deliverables. Now, that reminds you guys of what I mentioned at the very beginning, why we need a two-part workshop, all right, because we definitely need a break. In the second part, my colleague will come in to talk about our service learning mini grant, which is another highlight of today's workshop, because I'm sure a lot of you coming in today would like to or would like to explore and are interested in applying for our mini grant. Apart from that, we will also be talking some initiatives that we will be having in our next academic year, namely virtual service learning and also overseas non-local service learning. And last, but certainly not least, will be on sustainable development goals, on how to map not only service learning courses, but all of our courses to the SDGs, which is something new about university ranking reporting. All right, so let me see. Wow, perfect timing. Let's take a 5-minute break. It's now 3:50. Why don't we come back at 3:55 and I will pass the time to my colleague. 3:55, please, 5 minutes. See you soon. Okay, hi everyone, welcome back. So 5 minutes have gone very quickly. I will now pass the time. Wow, please remember her and remember her name too, because if you would like to apply for our mini grant, she is my very helpful colleague who is in charge of our service learning mini grant. So I will now pass the time to Casey, Miss Casey Hui, to introduce the mini grant to us. Casey, please.
Thank you, Jason. Hello, everyone. This is Casey, and who's in charge of the service learning mini grant. So if you encounter any questions about the application of the grant, please feel free to contact me anytime. So to start with, I bet some of you may have seen this poster already. That is, if you actually read through all the mass mails sent to you every day. Don't worry if you miss it, because we'll definitely resend it out again as we're calling for the new round of applications for our service learning mini grants. So what exactly are the mini grants? It's actually rather self-explanatory because it's a small grant that encourage faculty members to incorporate service learning elements into the courses so as to enhance the teaching and learning of service learning at HKBU, as well as to promote interdisciplinary collaboration. Because the grant is a really small one, so currently we support UGC-funded credit-bearing courses. So if you are teaching credit-bearing courses, please feel free to think about ways to integrate SL elements into the courses you are teaching. We also welcome non-credit-bearing service projects, but the priority will be given to UGC-funded credit-bearing courses first. But if you're currently having some plans about having a trial one of a service learning project, then one day you may convert it into a credit-bearing course. You feel free to let us know your proposal, and we'll see how we can help you to realize it. There are two main rounds of application for our mini grant each year. The first round is taking place right now. It's a summertime, so we are inviting applications so that the courses which will be offered in the coming semester one could be implemented with the service learning elements. As you can see from the poster, our application deadline is currently set as the 11th of July next month. So that after all the administrative or the processing or the works, hopefully we can have the courses ready by September when the first semester starts. And in November to December, usually we have the second round of application, so that the courses which will be offered in semester 2 could be implemented with the service learning elements. And then all the applications come in will be reviewed by a review panel, which consists of members of our Committee on Innovative Service Learning, a committee that actually oversees the general operation of CISL. And then when your application is approved, our office will contact the finance office, and then we'll create the mini grant account for you. And then you will be the project holder of this account. So what are the use of funding and how much you can apply for under this mini grants? You can have a look at this rather clear table. Basically, we divide the grant into 2 parts. The first part is the grant for course instructor / project leader. Depending on different locations your project is taking place, if your project is set in Hong Kong, then you can apply for up to $30,000. And if your project is taking place in the mainland China, Taiwan, Macau, you can apply for up to $50,000. And if it's in Asia Pacific, for example, Korea, Japan, Thailand, that you could ask for $70,000. And if you're taking your project to Europe or other places of the world, then you can ask for up to $100,000 for each project. And how can you use this money? Most of the teachers would make use of the money to hire temporary project assistants or student helpers to help, because a project, even though it's only taking place in Hong Kong, a local project, there are still a lot of administrative work, still a lot of manual work going on. So if you can make use of the money to employ a temporary project assistant, then you can it will run a lot smoother. And not to mention, you can use the money to purchase project materials, any kind of project materials, actually, USB, or if your project is about making artwork, then you may use the money to set up an exhibition venue, etc. And any service required for the course or project is remember from the part 1 of our workshop, from Jason's presentation, teachers might publish some booklets as the service learning deliverables, and then the printing, the publishing work, or you would like to hire a translator to translate some of the project materials, or graphic designer to design the booklet. All this kind of service could be supported by the grant for course instructor / project leader. And not to mention local traffic expenses. And if your project is a non-local one, that is a mainland Taiwan, Macau, Asia Pacific, or even European one, then the staff members' costs of transportation, lodging, and meals will all be supported by this part of the grant. And next, it will be the subsidy for students, the second part of the mini grant. This one would like to make it as easy as possible for you. So it is more like a direct subsidy, which means we don't need you to collect the receipts one by one from students. Instead, each student will be entitled to up to $300 for each semester. This is what we call the out-of-pocket expense. So it's like they can make use of the $300 to support maybe local transportation, or the project materials they use, or any other related expenditures. For example, if your students want to buy a small souvenir or gift for the service user, then he or she can make use of this $300 to do so, instead of asking the students to use their own money to contribute to the project. This is what the entire mini grant, especially the out-of-pocket subsidy, is about. But then for non-local projects, of course, in addition to this $300, each student may be entitled to up to $4,700 if the project is taking place outside Asia Pacific. So that the intercity transportation, accommodation, and all the meals they had during the trip will be supported by the mini grants. So the scale, as you can see, is really, even though it's a mini grant, the scale could vary depending on different nature and the different project locations. And so what about the roles of the CISL? Actually, you've already heard a lot from Jason. For example, the first mission we're having is to provide consultation to you. By consultation, it doesn't mean that we only send you the form, ask you to fill in everything, and then, oh, that's it, we give you the money and you do everything. No, in the first place, we would like to really discuss with you the project ideas. For example, how you'd like the project to be implemented, whether or not you've secured what we call the community partners already. If not, maybe our center, CISL, could link up some connections. We can introduce the NGOs, the social enterprise we know to you, so that we can collaborate together to have the project going on. Or if you have any difficulties, there's bits and pieces you haven't thought through, please feel free to discuss, and together we'll complete the proposal with you. And after we've submitted your application, of course, we'll all do the processing. Just like what I mentioned previously, we'll process the applications for review by our committee members and get it approved. Or if you have any comments, we'll convey the members' comments to you, and then you can maybe slightly revise your project ideas, and then we'll get the applications through. And after the application is approved, we'll liaise with the FO to set up the accounts. And if during the semester you have any issues concerning the reimbursement, or you don't know how to pay a certain service provider, please feel free to let us know as well. Our colleagues would try to provide as much assistance as we could. And during the delivery of the service projects, again, depending on the nature of your project, we tend to provide a wide variety of administrative and logistic support for your project. So you may expect to see us more than one time throughout the semester. For example, the first time you will see us after securing your mini grants would be the pre-service survey. This one was also repeatedly stressed by Jason in the first part of the workshop. Our center will be providing the pre and post-service surveys, which means that after your application is approved, your project is set to go, then usually in the first class of the semester, after the airdrop period, preferably, our colleagues will go to your class, and then we'll talk to your students and let them have a rough idea what service learning is, and then we'll conduct the pre-service survey. The SLOM survey, the questionnaire that my colleague which also sent in the chat box, we'll provide a list of questions and ask the students to fill in so that we can know more about what they already know or don't know about service learning. And then towards the end of the project, by the end of the semester, we'll come again, visit your class, and then conduct a post-service survey, which would like to compare whether or not there's any improvement or there's any change in the perspective of service learning. And not to mention the qualitative part, we'll conduct focus group with with the students, and then we'd like to collect as much feedback as possible. So this part of evaluation is also largely supported by CISL. And last but not least is data collection. What you can see, all the nice photos Jason first presented, and the photos you can see on our website, on our social media, or even the publications, they're what we call the service learning deliverables. So by the end of the project, after everything is completed, we'll ask you to kindly provide a completion report to us, and then send us back some photos for archival and for record, and so that we can assess students' achievement and the overall effectiveness of the project. So basically, this is what CISL would do in terms of the mini grant. We're not just processing the grant and that's it. We'll also try to be with you during the delivery and hopefully until the completion of the project. If you remember from the mass mail we sent last week, you can fill in the application form attached in that email and then send the completed form to us back to cisl@hkbu.edu.hk by 11th of July next month. If you would like to see more information, for example, the application guidelines and stuff, please feel free to visit our website or just contact me. I'm Casey. You can reach me by phone or by email, and I'll be happy to talk to you about the project ideas and also the logistic procedures about applying for the mini grants. I'll just be very quickly go through the application form with you. Yeah, can everyone see my screen now? It's a Word file.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, this is the service learning mini grant application form. As you can see, part A is basically some basic information about the course which would like to have service learning incorporated into it. So very basic information, and then the course instructor, the project period, whether or not there's any collaborating organization. So as what I just mentioned, if you say, I have some good project ideas, but I haven't secure a collaborating organization yet, so please feel free to talk to us. We'll try to introduce a connection to you. And then these are the estimated number of beneficiaries, number of service hours, how the service learning project will be graded. Just as what we always try to tell our teachers, service learning is a kind of formal pedagogy. So just as Jason mentioned, there will be the service learning assessment rubrics, and also we'd like the applicant to let us know more how the service learning project will be graded. For example, whether or not students need to write some reflections about their project, or they will need to do by the end of the semester need to do a presentation, or they would make some posters, they'll make videos. Just feel free to let us know. And project B will be about the more details of the projects. For example, how it will be carried out. If you're collaborating with community partner, how do you divide the work between the two of you or the three of you, and then the proposed timeline, that sort of thing. And how your project are relevant to the core SL course intended learning outcomes, how students would apply the academic knowledge, what you expect to see the students may have achieved after the end of the project. And if you've previously applied for our mini grants already, so please let us know whether you've added something new this time. So question 5 is for the previous holder. And question 6, what issue you're trying to address? Because like what Jason mentioned in the first part of the project, the service project really have to be related to the community. So what kind of changes we expect to bring to the community? That's what we very much concern. And linking to the social issues, please also let us know whether your project, your course is relevant to the Sustainable Development Goals, which are set up by the United Nations. There are 17 goals in total, and which ones, actually you can check more than one, which ones do you think your project is relevant to? Our director Lisa will talk a little bit more about this part in the coming session. And yeah, because because of COVID-19, there are a lot of unexpected circumstances. So how you cope with this unexpected circumstances, what are the contingency plans, any other information? And part C will be about the budget. Just like what I mentioned in the previous slides, for they're divided into two parts. The first part is for the course instructor. So the different limits for different project locations. And then the subsidy for students, up to $300 for students for local projects. So actually we'll be expecting like $300 times how many students you're expected to be taking part in the service learning projects. And then when you sum up A and B, the teacher's part and the student's part, you receive the total requested amount for your mini grant. And yeah, if you have the course syllabus, if your project is going outside Hong Kong, please let us know your proposed itinerary, and then sign your form and seek your department head or unit head's endorsement at the end. And that's it. It's actually not a very complicated form. We just want to have the proposed details, and as the semester goes on, you can discuss it with us, our colleagues, how you'd like to maybe adjust some of the plans. Slight adjustments are always welcome, as long as we can keep making the projects better. And the last few pages are just some of the guidelines, letting you know more about the course grant and the student subsidy part. So yeah, as mentioned, if you'd like to know more, or if you're really having difficulties in filling in this form, having difficulties in coming up with project ideas, please feel free to contact me or contact anyone at CISL. So that's my part about the mini grants. Maybe I pass it back to you, Jason, and then you talk more about the other initiatives CISL is supporting. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Casey, very much for the extremely detailed information. So I'm sure you guys can tell that Casey is already very familiar with the whole process of applying the mini grant. So simply come to us if you are interested. Now, in the last 10 to 15 minutes or so, just to say a few more words about some of the so-called new things that we are going to try to do and develop in the next academic year, starting in September. The first one will be what we call virtual service learning. Now, thanks to the wisdom brought about by conducting service during COVID-19, we can now come to tell that actually service learning can be very flexible and versatile. It can be done face-to-face, in hybrid, mixed mode, or simply online. As you can tell from the previous examples, you can see that a lot of our services, especially in the previous semester, semester 2, were conducted online thanks to online teaching and learning. It could be interviews done through Zoom, it could be educational videos, etc. So just a few reminders here. Of course, we will come back to you to remind you again and again. For example, even things were done online, make sure you invite different partners to come back to join students' presentations. We heard from students that they really appreciate the partners' feedback on top of ours and on top of their teachers. And you know, after all, reflection is this core part in service learning. So that's why this is something that we kept emphasizing. And as I mentioned, all right, thanks to all the wisdom and experience that we have collected in the past 1 to 2 years. This is actually a UGC project that we have developed starting from last academic year, a very long name, Integrating SL and VTL Virtual Teaching and Learning Technologies, a collaborative project with teachers and community partners. Now, what is this? So far, we have already got 4 courses in the previous academic year that fully engage with what we call virtual service learning. There were, for example, Chinese medicine students making videos for patients who could not come to HKBU for a detailed consultation session, for instance. We had some kind like a buddy program with communication students providing interview tips to secondary school students. Now, I will skip the rest, but let me tell you, all these virtual service learning projects are unique in nature. Unique in the sense that we actually had meetings with interested teachers to actually partner them with different organizations that need extra help, that need extra assistance, particularly during COVID-19, with very specific groups of service users, which could be like elderly who could not leave home, where it could be teenagers who are so packed with online teaching, etc. So in the coming semester, not coming academic year, in the coming semester, Sem 1 of AY 22 to 23, we will have to develop 2 more virtual service learning courses. So as you are thinking about applying for our mini grant, if you have a particular interest in developing online virtual service learning, let us know, all right? And me and my colleague will come to you and give you very detailed ideas, and we can brainstorm projects together. All right, so this is one of our initiatives that I would like to mention. And the other one, of course, will be overseas or non-local service learning, which regrettably, we have sort of stopped for like 1 to 2 years already. As you can see from the pictures here, we have very devoted, dedicated teachers who are still trying their very best to do some kind of virtual exchange, like online conference with different people from, like for this case, from different part of Asia. But then we are still looking forward to have more projects in the coming year, all right, if COVID allows, to, of course, mainland China, to the greater China area, to the Greater Bay Area, and of course, Asia, and also global projects. Take a look at these. We have actually got a few non-local projects before. We actually even had one in France, thanks to a very dedicated teacher. So apart from that, we would also like to develop service learning courses with a certain emphasis on Chinese culture as well, which could be language, which could be tradition and ethics, you name it. So just simply come to us, all right? And we can, again, brainstorm project ideas together. If you are even more ambitious to have trips planning in mind to the mainland or the Greater Bay Area, there are also other funding possibilities that you can always come to discuss with us. All right, so virtual service learning and also overseas service learning will be 2 of the main things that we would really like to further develop in the coming academic year. Last but not least, okay, before we put things into an end, we have been mentioning SDGs. This is something definitely new to, I would say, most, if not all, attendees here today. So for this part, I will pass the time back to Lisa to say a few words to us about why SDGs matter, all right, and why is it related to our work. Lisa, please.
Hey, thank you, Jason. Thank you, Casey. So, well, I believe our colleagues, they are familiar with SDGs, most of them because the United Nations has been like leading this initiative for many years. So it started with this idea, the senior management, that they would like to strengthen the work of HKBU in this area. Say, we know many of you've been conducting classes that are related to SDGs on poverty, on say environmental issues, on helping the society, especially service learning. So they are all about building a better society for the disadvantaged. So OIRP, the unit that is headed by Dr. Alison Lloyd, our Associate VP. So she did a very quick research and found that many of our courses are not reflected. They are not mapped with this SDG. So well, CISL is now tasked to start with this initiative that will start mapping our courses with the SDGs and see how we are now doing. So we'll be mapping courses, academic courses, we'll be mapping events and initiatives, at least under the teaching and learning units, and also research projects if we can. And we'll plan to complete this by August summer this year. So that is why we added the SDG mapping in the proposal. So when you complete the proposal, please do let us know which SDG you would like your course to be mapped with. Say if your course is on community health, you can map with SDG goal number 3. And many of us, if not all, we have community partners. So this is about utilizing, maximizing our community partnerships and resources, and then you can map your course with SDG goal number 17. And I believe this will be the trend in HKBU, that in your other courses, you will be asked also to map them with SDGs, and we start with our own service learning courses. So that is why we put it there. And apart from service learning courses, we'll also help the university to map other academic courses. So in the near future, you will be approached by us, sending you or to your department your courses with our suggestions of how your course will be mapped. And you can look at them and see if you agree with the mapping. So this is pretty much what we are doing and we will be doing in this summer. So there's a sample here for our triangle events. We've started mapping them with, say, these details visit about keeping bees in the urban area. Is it possible? It's about sustainability. It's about responsible consumption and production. So we map them with goal number 11, 15, and 17 because we are working with community partners in Hong Kong. So this pretty much about SDG, and we'll keep you informed, and Jason and Casey will approach you later for the mapping of your courses. So on the one hand, the old courses will help you handle that. And for the new courses and new proposals, please map them with this SDG. Okay, so thank you. Back to you, Jason.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. So speaking of triangle activities, and actually speaking of triangle, just 1 to 2 last slides on, of course, our very first co-working space at HKBU Triangle. I've already mentioned that for our mini grant holders, for our service learning courses, you are really more than welcome to make full use of the space. As you can tell from the pictures here, it could be simply lecture time, but also workshops, performances, exhibitions, you name it. Just unleash your creativity to make full use of the space. In the coming year, we'll be at full speed developing different incubation programs, of course, social innovation activities, and also entrepreneurial education. So actually on top of service learning courses and activities, if you have any relevant ideas that you would like to develop with us, simply approach us anytime, all right? And we can brainstorm further possibilities. Okay, so again, wow, perfect. Another round of perfect timing. We have like 5 minutes left for question and answer. So it's really up to you guys. You can turn on the mic, turn on your cam, or you can also type up your questions in the chat box. I've heard from colleagues that they have been receiving a couple of questions in the chat box already. So let's see if any of you have got questions for us, and we are happy to take questions. Actually, we can do this simultaneously. I know we have got a lot of information for you folks to digest today. So you can take some time to think about that. As Casey has been emphasizing, we are always here to help, be it the mini grant, triangle activities, basically anything. So if you have questions, feel free to email us, and actually don't talk only over Zoom. Let's meet up for coffee. We can come to your orders. We need that interpersonal touch, seriously. Hopefully we can meet up more. Okay, so I assume you don't have any burning questions right now. So my colleague has nicely sent out this survey in the chat box. So please do us a favor. This really echoes what I mentioned at the very, very beginning, that the whole university is now definitely data-driven, and which includes data from surveys like this. So please help us complete a survey on how you think about our workshop today. And actually within the survey, you will be able to leave us your contact, so we can also be in touch if you have specific comments, suggestions, partners that you would like to collaborate with, etc.
And Jason, allow me a minute of one other update. So we are also working on a new project in collaboration with Hong Kong U, CU, HKUST, and Ningnan University on the project that we will explore the accreditation of generic skills. So for surface learning, we stress a lot on developing students' generic skills like empathy, critical thinking, creativity, etc. And we are now working on a collaborative project on how to give formal accreditation to these skills. So if you're interested, you can contact me and see how we can collaborate more. And so this we have a few collaborators from other universities. So we'll again keep you informed. Thanks, Jason.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. So with no questions in the chat box, let's call it a day. We'll wrap up our workshop here then. So thank you everyone for joining us. I know it's a long workshop, all right? So have some rest and feel free to contact us anytime if you would like to further develop projects with us. Thank you very much.